Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story starts with two characters, Yuito and Nagi. Nagi talks about how they have been selected as the Scarlet Guardians, protectors of the planet. He addresses himself and Yuito as Private First Class while having a friendly battle with him. The training goes a little off track from what Nagi expected as Yuito takes the upper hand and gives him a small flick. Both of them get an alarm urging them to hurry as the introduction ceremony is about to begin. Outside, the whole city is in preparation for the candidate selection for OSF, Other Suppression Force. Nagi is hopeful that he will be the one, but is immediately let down when they announce the name of Yuito. The announcement also mentions him being the son of Yuito Sumeragi, the chairman of the entire establishment. Yuito is also the younger brother of Yuito Sumeragi, the current supreme commander of OSF. Despite the big announcement, they talk about how Yuito had a low psionic aptitude, showing their concern about whether he was ready for the fight against the others. Nagi cheers him up, advising him to believe in himself more than they do. Right after the announcement is over, an emergency alarm begins to go off in the entire city. The security system then alerts everyone about the presence of the others. Alien-like creatures then begin to show up around the city, with concerned individuals prepared to fight against them. Everyone watches on a screen as Major General Karen Travers easily takes out two of the others. He is then joined by Major General Spring, who uses cryokinesis to freeze the remaining aliens in an instant. Nagi and Yuito later find themselves in an oriental ceremony dressed up in a specific uniform, accompanied by their fellow OSF candidates. The boys begin to take notice of Naomi Randall, talking about how their class is blessed with beautiful girls. Naomi's younger sister Kasane is also on their tally, but she takes notice of Nagi waving at them and tells her elder sister to be wary of boys like him. Naomi tells her that she needs to stop treating her like a kid, and she was looking at Yuito, not Nagi. Every single one of the freshers is then put on notice as Yuito's elder brother, the commander, Kaito, makes his way to address them in person. He talks about how they are the chosen few in the OSF, and nothing should be taken for granted. He also briefs them about how little the OSF knows about the others. In reality, they know nothing more than the fact that they come from the extinction belt of the stratosphere. The speech comes to an end after he announces that they are now part of an elite fighting team. Nagi could not care less about the whole ceremony as he is more interested in knowing more about Naomi. They find out that her real parents were killed by others when she was still a child, and so the Randalls then brought her into the household. After a bit of research, Nagi makes it clear that he will be going after Naomi, and Yuito can call dibs on Kanase. Later, Yuito is approached by Hanabi, who he introduces as his childhood friend. She is excited to be in the same platoon as him. All of the platoon members then gather up together, and Yuito's platoon is named Seto and is led by Seto Narukami. Narukami introduces himself and his powers of electrokinesis. Hanabi then shows off her pyrokinesis. Similarly, Nagi has aerokinesis and Yuito has psychokinesis. Apart from them, they also have active duty members, Tsugumi, who has clairvoyance, and Kagero, who turns invisible frequently but doesn't reveal his power verbally. As soon as the introductions are over, the Seto platoon is urged to take a nearby mission. The location is already under high alert and defense systems are in place as a default. The others begin to fall out of the sky and the tanks start firing cannons right at them. While the defenses engage the others, the Seto platoon hurries on their way for the real action. Wataru is their HQ support with telepathy who keeps them updated about the situation from afar. Since Yuito and the gang are new, they are commanded to stand back and observe as the active duty members start to engage in battle. Kyoka platoon joins the battle as well. While the active members are fighting, Nagi and Yuito see a child trapped in between. They rush to save the kid but find themselves facing another. Yuito quickly uses his psionic powers to knock the alien back and rescues the child. This allows space for Nagi to unleash his powers, which don't prove much as he gets knocked down. Naomi helps him out of the tough situation while Yuito lures one away from them. It doesn't take long for Yuito to get cornered as well, but he is then saved by Kanase. With her help, he is able to take down the alien as he remembers a time someone similar to her saved him when he was a kid. Luca Travers, a commanding senior, briefs everyone on the situation, telling them that they lost 2 soldiers as their brains had been eaten by the others. Later, things get back to normal and it's just another day on Earth. The security system constantly provides updates about the stratosphere as people go on with their lives. While taking a stroll, Yuito talks to Nagi about how he thinks Kanase is the same person who saved him from the others while he was still a child. Nagi mentions that it is unlikely but not impossible since the OSF members go through a growth suppression process. Thanks to this little fact, age and rank have no relation in the OSF, and it is a person's ability that determines their standing. With all this in mind, Nagi does clarify that the Randall sisters are 16, the same age as they are. They then head to a nearby tourist site that has a tomb of Yuito Sumeragi, the founder of OSF, and a cemented hero in the eyes of everyone who followed behind. They then come across Naomi and Kanase, who pretty much had the same plan on how they were going to spend the day. Nagi instantly tries to make some moves on Naomi, but Kanase makes sure her presence is known. Whereas Yuito takes a chance to ask the sisters if they had any close relatives that shared a similar appearance to either of them. They don't recall having anyone like that, after which they get back to fortune telling. Meanwhile, in the OSF headquarters, Kaido is making his report to Joe as they discuss the overall state of the nation. Joe then takes time to talk to Kaido as a son and ask him how Yuito was doing, talking about the rumors that he took out another. He replies that his younger brother is doing quite well, but doesn't want him to get any special treatment just because of that. Seto and Kyoka platoons are hosting a joint training session with all the newbies and active members present. It's a pretty simple mock battle between two teams of 5 where the first team to capture the flag in the middle wins. Kanase takes notice of the fact that Naomi had been looking at Yuito and asks her if she liked him. Naomi tells her that she does like him, and so Kanase takes it upon herself to see if Yuito is a good fit for her. The battle begins and Nagi finds himself facing Naomi at the very start. She dodges all of his attacks as her power of precognition allows her to see the future, but only for a split second. Yuito is near the flag, going all out against Kanase, trying to find his way directly through her. Just as they begin to trade blows, Togumi manages to capture the flag thanks to Arashi from the Kyoka platoon being a sloth. Before they can regroup and discuss the details of the battle, the other alert puts them on notice. Both the platoons prepare to engage and make their way through a tunnel. From the pitch dark end of the tunnel, the others begin to run right at them. They put up a good fight before getting ambushed above, and some of them even get trapped. The others are relentless in their attack, and in the heat of battle, Nagi and Naomi get trapped behind a bunch of rubble. Before they can establish a good connection, the OSF on the other side hears Nagi crying out in fear. They clear the rubble in time for them to defeat a good amount of others that were about to get heavy on Nagi and Naomi. Things simmer down for a while before Naomi sees a quick future of Kanase lying down. She jumps in front of her sister and a gunshot fires, hitting Naomi instead as she begins to crystallize and break. She then starts to morph into another herself, and a considerably bigger one in comparison to the ones they were fighting before. Kanase is horrified at the morbid side of what used to be her sister. Naomi, who is now another, begins to attack all of them, knocking down Kanase and taking her out of the fight. Nagi starts to shout and shake in horror of what he had seen. Even when the other charges, he cannot move, which causes Yuito to take charge and fight against the monster. Seeing all of them attack Naomi like that, Kanase takes her side instinctively, telling them to stop attacking her. Before anything else happens, the other disappears as Kanase starts to reach out for her sister in grief. The Major General arrives to see what had happened. He advises everyone to keep their mouths shut for their own protection. As for Naomi, he plans on reporting that she died in battle. Of course, some of them do not agree with this, but Gemma makes it clear that those are orders to be followed. Unable to accept this decision, Kanase attempts to run away, but Karen Travers stops her by using a jolt of electricity to knock her out. Back at the headquarters, neither one of the platoons is happy with what had happened as they begin to miss Naomi and talk about how important her presence was. Kanase wakes up in her room, still in grief and shock. She then gets a call from her mother, who instead of comforting her, tells her how they were wrong to put Naomi in her care. In the end, they tell Kanase that they didn't want to see her face ever again. Karen takes his time to talk with Kanase and reveals that it was the Seirein who took Naomi. All hope is not lost as he tells her that they are the only ones that can bring her back to her normal human form. He also explains that there was no point in rescuing Naomi in her current form as she will be identified as another and killed immediately. Their only bet is to wait as he assures her that the Seirein won't kill Naomi. He leaves her with a cryptic message telling her to not trust the new Hakumas. She then goes to meet up with Yuito, who shows her an ampule that he had found. He tells her that it was lying in the subway where Naomi was shot. She recalls seeing something similar to it back in her house, and they both identify the Seirein logo on the ampule. She thanks him for this information and tells him to stay out of her way as she plans to rescue Naomi. He offers his help instead of revolting, and they both start to make their way. She hears about his situation with Nagi, which reminds her of her own bond with Naomi. Elsewhere, Gemma and Karen are gathered around a bunch of people and he assures them that they are in a surveillance-free spot. The individuals there discuss the fall of OSF and how it is going just as planned. The HQ then gets a huge alarm of an unprecedented amount of other sightings. The entire OSF is then dispatched to fight against them. As they are discussing, the citizens begin evacuation and the city is prepared to be an all-out battlefield. Nagi joins the Kyoka and the Seto platoon shortly after. They are all positive to see him and quite concerned too, as he was released from the hospital much earlier than expected. Yuito tries to tell Nagi about the situation with Naomi as he is still under the false assumption that she is dead. He tells Nagi that Naomi is alive and currently she is another who can be turned back to her human form. Nagi doesn't believe him, treating this remark as a joke, and even tells Yuito to not talk about it, thinking it would hurt Kanase. Seeing Nagi be so assertive is uncommon to Yuito, as he begins to wonder what had happened to his friend. A short while after, all communication between them is jammed. A bunch of OSF officers surround the Seto platoon with Gemma in the lead. Kyoka and Seto ask what this was all about and he doesn't reveal much. Instead, he is disappointed in Seto as he begins to express his disgust over his involvement in horrific research. Seto tells him he had no idea what Gemma was talking about, but before they can continue, Luca Travers arrives on the field. With him in the fray, Karen joins Gemma's side and the two brothers begin to trade blows. Gemma tells them that the new Haikuma establishment isn't moral and the nation was being fooled by them. Kanase asks him if he knew anything about her sister, but in the distance, Nagi starts to have a breakdown, and his expressions change as he walks menacingly toward Yuito and Kanase. Thanks for watching part 1, all other parts will be in a pinned comment below.